The beginning is like the
Beginning is the
hardest
hardest. Hello guys and girls, Raj here, back with another treat for you folks. So this is my good friend Simon. Last time I interviewed him on my channel, you folks really liked the interview. And actually he was a principal SA at Amazon Web Services at that time. Some stuff changed for the better. Now he's a senior vice president in NBC Universal. So yeah, got the opportunity to sit down with him. He carved out some time from his busy schedule, and I'm gonna pick his brain on some of the career questions. How can you get a job like this? Should you come to management or should you stick to technical? So all right, with further ado, let's get started. But for those of you who are new to my channel, I will give Simon an opportunity to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. Thanks for having me back. I guess we did an interview quite a few months ago now, and I had some really kind messages from your viewers who reached out to me, so thank you. But yes, Simon Rice. So I've been around in the technology space for a while. I started doing data design for pharmaceutical companies way back. I got into more broad end-to-end architecture design in the telecom space in the UK, and then moved over to New York 10 years ago and worked in consulting, and then as a solution architect for Amazon Web Services, and most recently moved into the entertainment industry, where I essentially run the platform design for the Peacock platform and other direct-to-consumer platforms for NBC.
Nice. So first question, Simon. So you have been in the technical architect role as well as now super high up management role. So what are some of the pros and cons, and how should someone think about going to either management versus technical?
Yeah, I think it really depends where your passion is. The people that I worry about are the ones who move into a management role because they find technology intimidating. Those are the people that actually I get a little bit more worried about, because, if you move into a management role because you don't like doing a technical role, I'm not sure management is really going to be the answer to that. There's probably other ways to fix that challenge with the technical role. If you move into management because you love managing people, you love building a team and developing people, that's probably the main reason that you should do it. It really depends what you're most passionate about. For me though, that if you can find a role where you can do both, where you can be a manager and you can stay technical, that's probably the best of both worlds.
Gotcha. So I know a lot of my viewers gonna ask this: which path gives most money?
Well, I guess it depends. I mean, it used to be the case that it was always management that would pay more than an individual contributor technical role, and people felt like eventually I've got to go down that management path just for compensation reasons. I don't think that's the case anymore, and certainly when I was at Amazon Web Services, you could reach the same level as an individual contributor as you could as a manager. There were very clearly defined pathways, whichever direction you wanted to go down. So yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to sell your soul to the management gods in order to earn some more cash.
Gotcha. Okay. So since you were in cloud and we're talking about career, I have one question from the viewer, which is very common. Career hacks. Are there any shortcuts to getting into cloud, or any specific qualifications or experience?
Career hacks. So career hacks, I don't think there's necessarily a hack around career. I think there's still a lot of value to starting at the bottom of a company and working your way up the ladder.
Yeah.
I do think there are maybe education hacks. If you're considering, do I go to college versus do I actually just get some qualifications that are very relevant to a role that I'm really passionate about, I think that's now actually, there's a lot more decision to be made there.
Yeah, definitely. I'll chime in. Neither Simon nor I went to college for comp sci, right? We didn't know nothing about computer. I actually got my first computer when I was age 21,
right.
And that also for playing video games.
Yes.
Right? I got my engineering degree in electronics, and then I started working in a steel plant, and it was freaking hot and sweaty. So I'm like, I want to like my computer science friends who sit in an air-conditioned room and just do stuff in computer. Same thing for Simon. Simon also switched his career and stuff. comparing the two paths, Simon, whether someone should go for cloud certification, let's say for AWS Solutions Associate, do some hands-on project, or you think they should just get into this Google Cloud Path program that they have, or AWS Cloud Path program?
Yeah.
Any insight into that?
I mean, to me, it's funny, and to your point, like when I was growing up, a degree in computing was an arts degree. It wasn't even a science degree when I was growing up, because computing was like this weird amorphous thing where you studied like algorithm styles and things more than you actually did hands-on coding. So like you really couldn't get a degree that enabled you to become a coder or a developer. But yeah, to your point, I definitely feel like either of those options definitely gives you years of advantage over somebody who's spending 4 years getting a bachelor's degree. That's not to say that, that a bachelor's degree is worthless. I think it's still worth a lot in some cases. But, I would say there's no reason why you couldn't do both. I mean, you can go to places like A Cloud Guru, who I absolutely love. I'm a huge fan. Like, I learned everything I knew about AWS initially from A Cloud Guru. It was for kind of $60 to get 6 weeks worth of video training to become an SA. It was amazing. Compared to the cost of a university education is a drop in the ocean. So yeah, I would say that if you're considering that, really do both and maximize the amount you can learn in a space of time.
No, definitely agree. Also, another thing is sometimes folks think like if they go into cloud, they suddenly will become IT expert. But that's not the case. Like if you already know a relational database well, then even in cloud, you will know it well. And if you don't know relational database or the fundamentals, you have to study that in the cloud, right? There is no like shortcut per se. Like if you know how to build an API today, then all you need to do is learn the cloud platform and the API service there. But most of the knowledge is already there, right? So this is more towards folks who are already working in IT for a long time and they're thinking, oh, it's a big shift to the cloud. But some of the knowledge you can reuse, like Simon used to work in Oracle databases, right?
Yeah.
And I used to work on DB2s as well as Python and some of the API stuff. So those stuff all came in, right? We reused all that stuff. So yeah, take a look at all these paths. Also, like A Cloud Guru is not sponsoring this video, so A Cloud Guru, if you're watching, I also studied A Cloud Guru, the Ryan Cronenberg Solutions Architect Associate course, and a lot of hands-on. Do a lot of hands-on whenever you are going through certification. Make sure you do the proof of concepts and stuff. Put everything in GitHub, and before you know it, you will have an impressive body of work.
Yeah, and I agree. And to me, a lot of what I learned was not necessarily the technology. It was more about the architecture patterns, and it was like, what does a real-time streaming, log ingestion architecture look like in the modern world? What does a 3-tier web app look like, and how would you modernize it? And that was what I really liked about A Cloud Guru. It really does sound like you're sponsored by them, but yeah, I loved it that not only did they give you the, this is how to use Kinesis, and this is what read and write packet size are for DynamoDB, but they also told you how to use that stuff in the real world, which is a lot more important.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next question, Simon. Architect roles, pre-sales versus engineering. Pros and cons, and what hiring managers are looking for in both worlds, because you are doing a lot of hiring these days.
Yeah, I am doing a lot of hiring these days. It's funny because in most big tech companies, if you apply for a solution architect role, you are what used to be called a sales engineer. And like in the old world, that was the person who created demos and did a POC. And when the sales guy, who is now called probably an account manager or something much more glamorous, account executive, but they're still sales guys, when they're in the room, the sales engineer was the one who was like bringing up the flashy demos to show the technology off. And the role is still a little bit like that. It's the pre-sales role has pivoted a bit more to being a builder, so you can get involved in really understanding the customer's business problem and trying to build something with them that can help that. So it gets a little bit more hands-on and closer to the customer, but at the end of the day, the account managers still carry a revenue target, and the solution architect works really closely with them and is kind of, helping them achieve that revenue target. So if that makes you feel icky about selling stuff, then maybe a pre-sales role is not for you. On the other side of the fence, you've got engineering architect roles, and these are people who are held accountable that you're part of the delivery pipeline. The product team is coming up with a feature request. They need some new capability. The architects get involved at day one in terms of understanding the product requirements, what technology should underpin that product requirement. But then they work very closely with the engineering teams to actually build it. So you're much, much closer to being hands-on. And I would say you get a lot more job satisfaction because you're seeing these things you design go out and millions of people potentially using them, which is awesome. There's also a lot more pressure though, because you're seeing these things that you designed go out. If it craps out, you're in trouble and your neck is on the block. So it's the kind of role where you really have to know your stuff. Like in a pre-sales role, you can maybe be a little bit creative. In a delivery role, there's no room for creativity. You either know your stuff or you don't. So there's a big difference there.
I guess there are pros and cons. When you are part of pre-sales, you get to see a lot more use cases, right? Because you can just get in like a commando or like Navy SEAL, and you do the design, do the little bit of proof of concepts, but you don't have to stay till the delivery, and you don't have to deal with the issues per se. But with the engineering architect, you get to do that. But I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to what the person really wants.
Yeah.
I mean, engineering architect gives a lot of hands-on experience, and there are a lot of jobs for both.
Yeah, and I do think the skills that you build in one of those roles are completely transferable to the other. So none of it is throwaway, wasted effort. There are lots of pathways between those worlds.
Yeah, definitely. And for both roles, one thing which is very underrated is communication. People say communication is a soft skill. Communication is a skill, period, right? It's neither soft nor hard, right? You need that skill. If you're an architect, you have to explain your design and your thought process, and you have to influence a bigger audience. And generally, architects, no one reports to an architect. So it's not like, Simon is SVP. If Simon goes tell someone, hey, you do this, they'll be like, oh, SVP. At the end of the day, Simon gonna decide my salary, so I better do this. But as an architect, you have to influence them with your thought process and your communication skill and some data, right? So that's very important. So make sure if you are trying to go to the architect, either engineering or pre-sales, you work on your communication skills.
Yeah, I think you're on the money. I see a lot of people who come from engineering, developer type roles into architect roles, and they're technically very, very good. These are normally people who have worked on a piece of a product, and their role expands and expands until they see the whole platform and they become incredibly knowledgeable about it. That's awesome. But to your point, the role of an architect is essentially storytelling. It's how do you explain very complex technical ideas to audiences that may include C-level people, but will also include developers and engineers who need to build something based on your design. And if you can't communicate that effectively, you're not going to get executive buy-in, and you're not going to have engineers, or worst case, you have engineers building something way off from what you were intending, and that sucks. So yeah, it really, and it's a skill that I think all of us are constantly learning, is how do you pitch that storytelling to the right level for your audience?
What advice do you have, Simon, for new cloud folks, especially in media and entertainment? What are the different technology areas? What should they learn? What should their career trajectory look like?
Yeah, so if you're getting into media and entertainment, I think the key thing is find an area that you're passionate about and really just spend a lot of time thinking through that area. If you want to work for Netflix or another streaming company building the next OTT streaming service, use those services and actually think through, like, when I hit play, what's happening behind the scenes? Like, where is the video coming from? How is it encoded in the right formats? How is it actually getting to me in such a quick period of time? Like, is it taking a 20 gigabyte file and sending that all to my TV? Probably not. So how is it being broken up? What CDNs might it be using? And then there are a lot of great blogs out there as well. Like Netflix and Disney Plus both have blogs where they literally tell you how their platforms work, and they go through things like chaos engineering and different concepts. And to me, it's really important to start with a very high level, broad, end-to-end understanding of a platform. And if you're talking about OTT, it is how is the video ingested? How is it encoded? Where is it stored? How does it get from there to the CDNs? How do we know what CDNs to use? How is payment processing handled? And how do we store customer identities and usernames and passwords? And kind of as you're using the product, you start to get a feel for these different pieces. And even if you don't know specifically, how Netflix handles identities for customers, if I was going to do it, would I use an Active Directory or an LDAP repository, or what might that look like? And you can weigh up the different decisions, which is exactly what the people in Netflix would have done 12 years ago when they were building the service. So I really like that thought exercise of just using the product, thinking about it from different angles, thinking about how is it highly reliable? How does it scale? Would it be cost effective if I use this technology versus that technology? And at the end of the day, the design you come up with actually doesn't matter too much as long as you have the right pieces of the puzzle and you've gone through that thought exercise. So that's how I would start, is just understand that big picture and then find an area that you're passionate about diving deeper, because as much as that broad end-to-end knowledge is useful, it's kind of useless unless you have an area of depth within it. So, if video is your thing, absolutely look at how is the video broken up? What is a mezzanine file? What is transcoding versus encoding? And should we do it in advance? There's a lot of questions that you could ask there. But maybe CDNs, is every CDN created equal? If you use multiple CDNs, how do you pick one over the other? What happens if it goes down? There's a million questions that you could dive into there.
When you take interview, let's say media entertainment, and then you are looking for some sort of project they did, right, on their personal time. What kind of project is suitable for this kind of media entertainment tech jobs?
Yeah, I'm always looking for people who are inventive and curious and creative in their own way. So honestly, one person I hired back at AWS, when I asked them this question, my question is always, tell me the coolest thing that you learned recently.
Yeah.
And somebody told me that they learned Icelandic, that they'd just been on a vacation to Iceland. They were so obsessed with Icelandic culture that they just learned Icelandic as a language. And to me, it's as difficult to learn Icelandic as it is to learn Perl or Ruby on Rails or something like. So yeah, there's something about just somebody's innate curiosity in their DNA that really appeals to me in candidates. When it comes to media in general, I'm definitely on the lookout. It's very, very easy to spin up a video stream from something. You can play video on your laptop, you can stream it using open source technology, and you can stream it to another device. You can stream from your phone to your laptop, and there are some great tutorials. There's a lot of technology on AWS that allows you to do that stuff out of the box, and there are solutions around that. So if anyone has tried just building their own mini OTT service on their laptop, or building their own interactive video streaming service and trying to imitate what Twitch do, if somebody walks into an interview and they can tell me about that kind of experience, that's golden.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So, and then how should their career trajectory look like? Let's say fresh out of the college, someone studied cloud, a certification, a little bit of DevOps, they did one of the sample projects, and then they come to you. What kind of job they should expect to get, and where do they go off from there?
Yeah, so I think in my mind, there's a ladder of architect roles, and it starts off with kind of an associate level role where you're probably straight out of college. You're still learning the technology sphere, but you can still add value. You could be involved in the design of a new process or a new workflow or a new component. And maybe you're the person that's going away and researching, how do our competitors do that? Or what are the different technology options and what are the pros and cons? Maybe you're coordinating an RFP response or something to try to figure out which way to go. You may not have the ultimate decision-making power in that design, but at least you're contributing to it. And as you're contributing, you're learning you're learning the technology space as you go. then I think it comes to a person who owns a domain. They're deep in data or metadata or analytics or video or whatever their space is. And people tend to get deeper in that domain and then take more ownership. So if there is a new video process or video capability, they would probably own that. They would probably have associate architects feeding into that project. They're pretty much limited to that domain. Then, as I see it, the role broadens and the scope and the impact of the role broadens. So it becomes more end-to-end. Maybe you're now responsible as a principal architect for an entire platform, that you've got that experience and depth in an area, and you start to then broaden your impact and understand, well, okay, if this is the video experience, what does the commerce experience look like, and how do people buy that video, and what is the metadata that goes along with that video? And you start to understand a lot more end-to-end and add a lot more value to the platform that way. Eventually, you then become the lead architect for a product line, and you own that entire product relationship and product roadmap. And then I think it can become even more strategic. And there are people in my organization who are VP level who then work on cross-product initiatives. So what would happen if we took this capability from this product and plugged it into this product? Could we create a unique differentiating customer experience through doing that? And those are the people who not only have a very broad technology view, they have multiple areas of depth where they know areas very, very well, but then they are also big thinkers. They're just ideas people that can just innovate and come up with something that would delight customers. So that to me is the kind of the on-ramp into an architect role. But there are senior developers and people who come onto that ramp at different places. You don't necessarily need to start way down at the bottom.
Yeah, so I get this question a lot, Simon. Like straight out of the college, they want to be architect. I don't know if the title architect is very attractive, but personally, like I think like if you're straight out of the college and you know coding, try to get into an engineering job because you will have a solid foundation. To architect big enterprise solutions, you need to know a little bit of pros and cons, like when to use SQL, when to use NoSQL. And unless you do it with your hands on, just studying to me is not, it doesn't stick the same way. And there are a lot of challenges beyond what you are studying. You only come to know about those things when you're actually in the engineering team doing the stuff, right? Like how do you performance tune? How do you integrate with 5 different other platforms? Is API the best way? Is load balancer the best way? Can you just directly call? And they're navigating a lot of technical, other than technical challenges, a lot of political challenges as well. That kind of teaches you how to navigate through some of the big cogs on these big enterprises, right? Knowing just the technology is not enough. You have to try it. And number 2, you also have to know how to navigate people. So if you're straight out of college, to shorten summarizing my long rambling, don't be shy about joining an engineering team and do the thing hands-on and get a feel for it and then try to become an architect. That's personally my opinion.
I think that's really good advice. And I do think like the previous company I worked with before my current role, they had around 70 architects worldwide. They had 3,000 engineers. So that just shows you the difference in size of the teams as well. So, there are relatively fewer architect roles compared to developer and engineering type roles. And engineering roles are a great place to just get some experience, earn some credibility. Like Raj said, people are so much more complicated than technology. So being able to get some experience solving people problems is awesome. So yeah, I completely agree with you on where to start. You mentioned earlier about pre-sales versus engineering, and I do think what you gain in a pre-sales role, as you said, is dealing with a broad range of companies. And, for me, I definitely remember I was working with a lot of startups early in my career, and everything's so easy with a startup. Like everybody is, even if people are not physically young, like the company is very young, everybody's pulling in the right direction, they're all trying to help each other out, sharing knowledge. Then when you work with a massive corporation, not always the case. There are politics, people have their own agendas, people are trying to get their own promotions, and they don't care about your stupid project. And it's a very different world. And I think just gaining that level of life experience is very, very valuable.
Oh yeah, definitely. So in enterprises, I feel like no one wants to change their system, because if something goes wrong, that means they will be in the path of impact,
Yeah.
right? Even if it makes the design much simpler, but it's very difficult to make people do it. Like a lot of stuff just comes into the back end. I used to work for a system. I'm not gonna name the system in Verizon. It's like the back end, and whatever goes wrong, people will just point finger at the back end system because they had to do a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, this stuff is very valuable. All right, so last question, Simon. I know you are deep into technology and the way you explain the media entertainment stuff with all the technical. So people will probably think that you are deep into technology, engineering all the time, even in your off time. But that's actually not the case. Simon has a bunch of different hobbies, and one of his hobby is to talk about entertainment, and he's very interested in Indian movies, and a lot of my viewers are from India as well. So why don't
Okay.
you tell my viewers a little bit about your channel and how they can watch you?
Yeah, so my wife and I used to host physical movie events for a movie theater near us before COVID. And we would literally go along, we'd learn some trivia about the movie, we would hype the crowd up and do contests and things. It was really, really fun. And we did that for a few years. It was like our favorite hobby. Then COVID hit. And not only were there no more movie theaters, so we decided maybe we'll try to take that passion to YouTube. But of course, there were very few movies coming out of Hollywood as well. Like there was this kind of backlog that came in early 2020, and then it dried up. Yeah, and so a few friends of ours, and obviously working in technology, a lot of our friends are from India, said, well, there's a bunch of movies coming out of not only Bollywood, but also South Indian cinema as well. So we started to learn about like the sandalwood sorry. We started to learn about like the sandalwood industry from Kannada speaking South India, and then Telugu cinema and Bollywood movies, and we really went on a journey of not only I guess learning about the movies but also the culture behind them, which has been such a fascinating journey. And I've got to say, the viewers who have kind of educated us along this journey and tolerated our mispronunciations of the words and our stupid foreigner not understanding things, and also obviously like I'm British by birth. There's a lot of not nice history there, and actually hearing from viewers who come from a completely different culture and building a relationship with them has been the most amazing experience. We thoroughly love working on projects about Indian movies, and just can't get enough of it right now.
Cool, and I will give Simon's YouTube in the description, so please go check him out, subscribe to his channel. All right, Simon, thanks again for getting some time out of your busy SVP schedule. Let me know what you guys think. Any other questions that you want me to ask Simon next time we meet? Click that like button, smash it if that's something you are into. Subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. All right, that's it for this one. I'll see you guys and girls in the next video. Bye.